Hola Paletitas. Para los que son nuevos a esta pachanga, I'm César Camacho.
And I'm Ana Sheila. Welcome to the podcast where we challenge ourselves, systems, and the status quo, pero siempre con cariño. Today, we are so excited to be joined by Alexis Garcia, creator, writer, storyteller, and director of the 2022 short film, Daughter of the Sea. Beautiful film. Y'all have to see it. Alexis is also the co-founder of Botanica Pictures and has worked as a content strategist, creator, and producer at BuzzFeed. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
She is a boss.
Thank you.
Boss. But I guess to start us off with some little icebreakers, I have a few little quick questions. Primero, ¿cómo te comes la paleta?
Well, I clearly just took a bite. I like to lick it and then I like to bite it, but I eat it very slowly because otherwise I get brain freeze.
So you just like to really
enjoy it.
Take it slow. Take it slow.
La saborea.
Yeah. But I do like to take clearly like to take a bite out of it.
No, I feel like I'm a little biter too because I'm like, okay. I'm like impatient. So I'm like, I need to move on to the next thing.
It's so delicious.
And then what's your zodiac sign?
My sun sign is Cancer.
Okay.
Oh,
July. Do you know your other ones too?
4th of July?
No, 14th.
Oh,
the 14th of
right.
July, which is Bastille Day in France, which is also fireworks on my birthday. So,
Ooh.
Nice. I'm a Virgo moon and a Scorpio rising.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you relate to your signs? Do you feel like they represent you?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this is so Cancer of me. But yeah, no, I definitely am. When the pandemic happened and the world shut down and I didn't have to leave my house, I was like, yes. But that was the Cancer in me being like, I really would rather be at home. But yeah.
Awesome.
No, I love that. I can't do Cancer men, but
oh yeah,
Cancer women, I have a lot of Cancer.
I love water signs.
Water signs.
Yeah.
Okay. And how would you describe your perfect morning?
Perfect morning is a slow morning. I get to take my dog on a long walk. There's no traffic, so it's a Sunday morning.
So today.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank you for spending your morning with us.
And I like to drink black tea with a little bit of oat milk and, do my prayers and meditation. Yeah, Sunday mornings are actually the best.
I love that.
Well, thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning.
Yes.
Hopefully we add to it.
Happily.
What's your favorite film? I know that might be a hard...
Ooh, there's so many.
A hard one?
Okay, a top 3.
A
top 10.
Top 10.
No. Meaning one, because I think that when someone asks you what's your favorite something, it's so hard to do that.
Right,
but when you open it up a little bit more, you don't have to put so much pressure. My answer is my favorite.
Exactly.
But I feel like that's part of the difficulty in answering that question.
Yeah, totally. But I love a lot of different films, but a few of my favorites there's this great film called Whale Rider. It was from 2002. Amazing film. If you can find it, check it out. I love Pulp Fiction, and I love anything Terrence Malick. He's one of my favorite directors. But yeah, I guess I could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
We're at top 20.
The podcast
we keep going. We'll have a follow-up list.
Yeah, that's great.
What flavor paleta would you be if you could be a paleta flavor?
Well, this mango's really hitting, but I also really love, I don't know that they make passion fruit flavor, but
they should.
They should.
I think they
Wait, passion fruit, is that maracuya?
Yeah,
it's maracuya.
Yeah. Bacha in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's 3 different words. Right? Or everyone has a different a different way.
Chinola.
Chinola.
DR, I think. And then Pacha, Puerto Rico, and Maracuya, more commonly known throughout Latin America.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, I have one last question for you. What's a personal item that you can't leave without, but not counting phone or wallet, keys or something
personal,
like that?
Okay.
Something that you just,
something meaningful.
Yeah.
Could I say my dog? It's not a personal item.
Yeah.
He's a being.
That's a being.
He's here right now. I'm kidding.
No, okay. A personal item. My rings. I like to wear rings. And it makes me feel like, okay, now we're in business when I put my rings on.
So what is it? So now we're in business. So is it something about, is it very embodying? And you're okay, this is me. What is it?
Yeah, I think, so I this ring is from my grandmother. This was my engagement ring, and this is a ring that my uncle gave me. And so it's just like things. They're from meaningful points in my life, and that just makes me feel like I don't know myself.
Yeah, I love having something that you can be wearing that can call on or connect you to people that are important to you or moments that are important to you. That's actually really inspiring me. I'm like, oh, how can I incorporate that so that when you walk outside, you're connected to something that's bigger than yourself.
Totally,
that's really cool.
I'm gonna see you blinked out at the next episode. Like all this jewelry. I stole it from my mom.
Well, I mean, I think that jewelry are actually really great items to pick up from travels, right? Because they don't, they're not so touristy or whatever, but they're personal things.
They're meaningful.
You remember, like, I got this when I went here.
Exactly.
Right? I love that. I actually just went to Valle de Guadalupe last weekend and I got some jewelry.
Oh, really?
I've only gone since the whole transformation of it twice, but it's really, really, it's wonderful, beautiful, amazing food. Have you had a chance to visit?
Yeah,
as well?
I went. I haven't been to the Valle, but I was in ¿cómo se llama? La Bufadora.
Yeah, in Ensenada.
Yeah. I was in Ensenada, and it was amazing.
Awesome. Okay, pues mira, today we're going to talk about healing, creativity, and vamos a ver qué más, but we want to open it up with our segment that we call Dicen por ahí. And what this is we're just going to share, it's either a fun fact or a hot take, and then we sort of react to it.
Okay.
So our Dicen por ahí today, kind of connected to the theme of healing, is did y'all know that there are a growing number of studies that support the idea that the effects of trauma can reverberate down generations through epigenetics? O sea, that intergenerational trauma is actually, real, that it can be something that carries on, and that sometimes, if you have ever felt like you can't escape certain situations, or you're seeing patterns come up, that, there's a reason for that. That doesn't mean we can't get out of it, but there's a reason why you find yourself in these same
There's literal science.
cycles.
It's literal science.
Yeah. So I'm curious, some thoughts on that, if you've maybe even experienced it in your own life. So opening it up.
Absolutely. I actually, there's this indigenous belief that when you heal yourself, you're healing 7 generations back and 14 generations forward.
Wow.
And for there to be a scientific connection and like that actually proves that this is true, I think that it makes it all the more meaningful. And also just to like tap into our indigenous wisdom and how accurate it was, even though so much of that wisdom was intuitive knowledge. And so I love when science just proves that our ancestors were right.
Right. And I guess opening up ourselves to that possibility, because I think especially like Western culture tries to tell us what is true and what is right, and then you see things that sort of push back against that narrative, even through science, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Something that's been interesting for me as I've gotten older is you start seeing some of the connections to your parents and in your behavior. I'm like, oh shoot, I do this, and my dad used to do this, or my mom, and you're like, oh my God. But I guess
you're like, I'm becoming them.
Right.
Slowly you're like, there's something I do that I'm like, my dad definitely does this, or I'm like, my mom does this more. And I'm like, I need to break some of these habits.
No, sometimes I'll be doing stuff that my mom does and I'll be like, Señora. I call myself Señora. I'm like, whoa. I'm sorry.
Or I'm sorry. I've noticed I've started to like share my mom's sayings now.
Los dichos? I'm like, wait.
I'm like, oh my God, these are actually coming out of me. Like just naturally. What did I say?
Me rezando in the car. I'm like, every time I get in the car, I'm like, persino, dejar rezo.
Oh my God. My mom is like the funniest, como like her jokes are very PG, cheesy jokes. Like she'll something like, she'll be like, I'll say like, estaba pensando, and my mom's like,
yeah. Wow.
Just that kind of humor. And I'm like doing it now. I'm like, oh my God.
But you're becoming her.
I know.
Slowly. One thing I've noticed that my dad used to do growing up, he would call everyone primo. Like, primo. And like, because he would be friendly with everyone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I have a big family, but like, damn, we have like a lot of family everywhere. Like, I actually thought they were primos. And now that I'm older with all the girls, I'm like, oh, she's my prima. And I feel like I'm doing that now, but like in a queer way with all the girls. But if they're from Jalisco, I'm like, They're primas.
They're definitely-
Somehow
They're
they're primas.
probably-
We're somehow down the line.
related.
We share some blood.
I love that that's like he was calling people family, and that was just his way of moving through the world, is to initiate that connection of being like, we're
together. We're
in
together.
Yeah, and it's funny that you're sharing that because I've seen you actually do that now. We went to an event, this organization called Mi Gente, do a lot of great work. Shout out to them. We were in Atlanta, and you made a friend that you started calling prima for the rest of the weekend.
There was a banda playing, and I was like, Jalisco, arriba Jalisco, and she's like, arriba Jalisco. I'm like, prima? And the whole weekend,
So
we were just like calling each other primo and prima.
I love that.
Yeah. Everyone's family.
Alexis, in prep for our interview, I was listening to other podcasts and things that you've been on, and I heard you say on a podcast that your life, you view your life as a mission. So I'd love for you to share with the audience. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think that we're all here for different reasons, and we all have gifts and talents that we're meant to share with the world, and that is your mission in life. And that's at least my philosophy is that I'm here for a reason, and I have certain things that I need to accomplish, and I feel very mission driven in accomplishing those things. And I think it's, being a creative too. It's sometimes you're like, I'm not saving lives, I'm not a doctor in an emergency room, and so the way that I perceive my challenges with my career and the work that I feel I've come here to do, I think it helps to put it in perspective that what I'm doing is still important, even though I'm not saving lives. I'm still doing something that is meaningful to the people I'm sharing it with. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit more about that concept and how
I love that you say that, because I literally 2 weeks ago, my sister started her first nursing job, and we were catching up, and I'm over here cooking, working from home, thinking of creative posts for to showcase this Latino actor that's in this new show. And she's like, oh, yesterday I had my first code, and I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, oh, this viejito I guess died for a minute, and I had to give him CPR for 2 minutes. And I'm like, girl, we live 2 different lives. You're over here taking care of people, lives. And I'm over here thinking of a meme that I could post on social media. But we still have purpose in our own ways.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it put it into perspective.
But y'all, I actually want to push back on the idea that creativity is not helping save lives. I mean, maybe it's not in the emergency room, but I think that, what people create and share with the world often inspires people, gives them purpose, heals them, and in a way, and healing is literally saving a life.
You're right.
Sure.
You're right.
We give them a voice.
And I mean, I guess related to that, I mean, I if I remember correctly, your abuela was a curandera, and you can confirm that. And now I feel like you use storytelling as a medium for healing. So I'm curious if you could expand on that. And I'm curious how that path revealed itself to you.
Yeah. Yes, my grandmother, she's a spirit medium. She's still a practicing psychic and healer. She had a Botanica in the Bronx for many years. And during my childhood, I would go to the Botanica and be packaging potions and stuff like that. And it was just all a normal way of existing. And her Botanica became a community center in the neighborhood where people would come, if they needed they needed extra money. So she gave them a number to play for the lottery or something, or they needed to get rid of, they needed to become invisible, or, all these kind of quirky things that people go to a Botanica for. And I think that her original kind of gifting as a healer was meant to be for her to teach other people about their own ability to heal themselves and to heal and for her to heal her community through those teachings. And while I don't have, I'm not a medium, I'm not a spirit medium, I do channel creativity, creative storytelling, and I realized that my kind of inheritance, my spiritual inheritance from her was that I would become like my storytelling would become a modality for healing. And so that's how I've kind of carried on the legacy. And that's why my company's called Botanica Pictures, to honor the Botanica that, you know, I grew up knowing, and the work that my grandmother continues to do.
I love that. Do you remember if there was like a moment where you're like, this is, or was it just gradual?
Like, no, it was definitely a moment. I remember when I was in the process of making Daughter of the Sea, I kept coming back to this question, like, what is the medicine that the world needs right now? And how can I put that in this film? And that was a very kind of pivotal moment for me as a storyteller, where I was like, okay, this is what I am going to be doing now with future projects too. It's just, I think it's like, there's all these different genres of movies, right? Like, you could go to see a horror film and be scared, and you could go see a rom-com and laugh and fall in love. And it's like, but what if we also used that film for this concept of like, what if people went to the theater and could be healed through storytelling? And so that's where I'm at right now. And I feel very excited about this. It's like something that like fills me spiritually and gives me, it gives my work so much meaning to me.
Yeah. I love how you asked that question. What does the world need right now? And answered that through your work. So would it be fair to say that in this moment, you perhaps feel most aligned with your purpose? Yeah,
definitely. And I think it's so interesting, the process of life, right? Of how all the little things that you do to become who you are. And I'm still in the process of becoming, obviously, but now I think I've finally hit a time in my storytelling career where I'm like, oh, I'm truly aligned with what I came here to do. Like, to bring it back to my mission. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I've come here to do.
That's so powerful. Yeah.
Thank you.
I need to make an appointment with your abuelita.
I know, right? Where's she at?
I was just in New York. I missed it.
Does she have a Yelp page?
Did she take Zoom calls?
She still has a landline, and she takes phone calls on the landline at all hours of the night. She's like a night bird, a night owl. And she'll take calls from like 7 p.m. to midnight. And I'm like, who's calling you at midnight?
Me. I'm gonna start calling.
Who are these people that are calling you? She's 90. She's 93. So.
Okay.
Oh, she's old. Yeah. Or she's 94. Yeah, she's gonna be 95 this year.
And is still doing the work.
And is still doing the work.
Serving people. Yeah.
She gets up every morning, still sweeps her whole house, and like, which is really admirable, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I
barely sleep.
I got nice, and it's like every other day.
So I'm curious, I feel like in order to do the work that you do, you have to be devoted to creating the space for creativity and also be connected to healing. Really, like that has to be a practice that you devote yourself to. So I'm curious, and then I also heard you say that if you're not vibrationally aligned, you can't be the vessel that you want to be, right? And I'm curious what that commitment looks like in practice for you.
Yeah, I think I really value my alone time in that I have to make time every week to just have a few hours to myself where I'm even if it's just like folding laundry or whatever, like doing my household chores and stuff. I think it's really important for me to just have conversations with myself and checking in where I'm at, and also allowing the creative voices to flow through me. And I mentioned that Sunday mornings I have a prayer practice, but I have like a small altar in my house that I keep active and activated, and that's a really important part of my spiritual practice, and that my spiritual hygiene is important to me. And that could be meditation, it could be just carving out a few minutes every day to reconnect with my my inner my inner person.
Yeah. I guess, how do you protect that time? You're just so committed to it that you make sure that it happens?
I mean, it's not, sometimes it's really hard, especially when you get busy. It's like so hard.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, sometimes you have to say no to things, right?
Yeah.
Just to be like, I need a night off, or I need this time off, or, and it literally could be as simple as like, I'm going to say no to going out tonight, and I'm going to eat an edible, stay home and watch TV, or fold my laundry, or, do whatever it is that kind of like allows you to have a self-care practice.
Yeah.
I love that. I've taken an edible and staying in.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've talked to too many people. I need 2 days by myself.
Stay in.
Take a little edible and eat all the snacks.
Literally.
Have you ever found yourself out of
Oh, absolutely.
And what did it take? Because I think that, unfortunately, the world we live in makes it really easy to get out of alignment with yourself and be distracted by all these things that get you away from who you are and what you're and from your purpose. So what have you done? Have you felt super misaligned in maybe small or big ways, and what has it taken to
I think when I worked at BuzzFeed, it was very demanding, and throughout the pandemic too, we were working full time still, even though we were working from home. And I remember hitting a point in 2021 where I was like, I'm kind of burnt out. Like I know I'm not creating at the best of my ability. I'm doing this work, and it's important, but it's also like I personally like need a break. And so in 2022, when I ended up leaving BuzzFeed, it took me about 3 months of like not working, but also like I had to make money to pay my rent and stuff, but it was still like taking a real break from just the grind of being online, taking time off of looking at Instagram, for example, and like engaging with nature and going on hikes and, reconnecting, like touching grass. That was really kind of how I was able to overcome the burnout that I was feeling. And I think it's so easy to forget to touch grass because we wake up, we have to be online, we have to do this thing, and it can be really draining to our spirits and to our bodies, to our souls, to our minds. And so it's, finding a place where you can, go to the beach, or, being able to find opportunities for reconnecting with the world around us in a way that isn't so technological is definitely my recommendation.
Yeah.
No, I love that, because I feel like it's so hard nowadays too, because it's like work and you're tapped out to do it for your personal social channels.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm over it. Like I'm doing this every day, all day. But I love that you mentioned like escaping to like nature and like going to the beach, going on hikes. Because and everyone knows this, I just go to Mexico. Yo me escapo. I'm like, I'm going for 2 weeks or a month. And like, I feel like when I'm in Mexico, my parents' hometown, and my grandparents are all there, I like actually like, I'm more present. And, like I don't really check my phone. Like I'm enjoying like the food and el olor de tierra, like just being
like
in the rancho.
For your nervous system to be in those, like that slow life.
Yeah. And like smelling horses and like riding horses and just like smelling horses. But you know what I mean? Like it's just, you go to the bar and it huele a rancho. Me, I'm just like, I don't know, but just
touching grass, smelling horses.
Touching grass, smelling horses, throwing some mud on me. But I feel like I could actually like, it's so peaceful and like actually like escape. It's like a real escape for me. And like, I get grounded and then I come back to reality. But I feel like I have way more energy to like just come back to life and go back to work.
Yeah, I agree.
I totally resonate with that. Mexico is that place for me. Obviously, I mean, we're both Mexicans. But I think the thing that I'm taking from what you shared is it allows you to be present. And sometimes I feel like when we're in our same routine, it is harder to find ways to find presence. But if we can figure out what that way is for us wherever we are, I think I'm still figuring out what it is for me right now. But yeah, I'm wondering your connection. What's your connection to your home country, Puerto Rico?
Yeah, no. When Cesar was talking about being in Mexico and just being surrounded by the land and the smells and the slow life, it's like my grandparents. So my grandmother who had the Botanica, they moved back to Puerto Rico in the 90s. She sold the Botanica, and my grandfather's lifelong dream was to return to Puerto Rico. They'd left in the 40s and 50s, and so that was an aspiration of theirs. And so they did, and they bought a farm in the mountains, and I would get sent, like my brothers and my cousins and I would all get sent to PR for the summers, and we would spend like 3 months down there. That was our summer camp, basically. Only we had chores. And
no, same. We would go to Mexico every summer.
Right?
We were in the rancho every summer, in the pueblito every summer.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't go to summer camp.
Right.
That was summer camp. All the primos were there.
Yeah, exactly, literally. And so that, thankfully, that place still exists. And I was literally just there last week, and I got a week that I got to stay there, and just waking up in that landscape and seeing the trees that are so familiar, and seeing, staying in my grandmother's room was like, those little things, I think, are such special connections that I really cherish. And I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity. Not everyone is able to go back, right? Not everyone is able to spend summers like this, or like we were able to. And so that's something that place is when they like go to your sacred place or whatever, when you're doing a meditation, I'm like, that's where I'm going.
So you transport yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And now you're getting to work in Puerto Rico so much as well.
Yeah. Oh my God. Actually, I just realized that you guys have all seen, since you've seen Daughter of the Sea, we actually shot Daughter of the Sea at my grandparents'.
That's the house. It's that house. That's the house you're speaking of.
As soon as you mentioned, I was like, I envisioned like all the trees, and it's so beautiful.
That's the house. That's the land. And that was when I first kind of like started having visions of like film and becoming a visual storyteller was on that land. And so one of my goals became bringing a production there, and that's when we shot Daughter of the Sea there.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah. You met my cousin Chabelita, who is helping us too, but we've been wanting to film in our parents' hometown.
Oh my gosh, because
both our parents are in the same pueblito.
Yeah.
And it's always like Blue Agave, La Tierra Roja. And I'm like, we have to do something back home.
I mean, you're sharing it right now. And we were talking earlier, Alexis just spoke this into what she's doing into existence.
I was like, I want to make a film at the farm, as we call it, the farm. I want to make a film there. And then I realized that dream, by filming Daughter of the Sea there. So yeah, you can do it. Speak it into existence.
I need money.
Yes,
money for the film to pay everyone.
Right, that part.
But I love that. Yeah, I'm getting all the visuals from your film and like your grandma's house. That's cute.
Yes.
So is that where you were waking up a week ago?
That's where I was waking up a week ago.
Love that. I love that I can picture it too. It's so
we need to go with you next time to Puerto Rico. I've never been.
How can we come?
Yes.
Do you need any additional help?
Yes, we do actually.
You know what? It's funny, if I would have known.
I'll make lunches or something there.
I didn't have more time. I didn't have an actual like job, so I could, if you needed help, I could have come with you. I would have been down to work for free.
I'll be your assistant any day.
Yes, sounds great.
So
I'm gonna take you guys up on that.
Please.
I'm for serious.
Any excuse for me to go to.
I'm for serious. Like I wish pero ya ahora tengo trabajo.
We're all volunteering.
Right, yes. Let's all go.
Take us to la isla.
Yes, let's all.
So speaking of your background, you're a New Yorican in Los Angeles. So what does it feel like to take up space in Los Angeles, a city that's predominantly Mexican and Central American, and how has that evolved since you've been here? You've been here for several years now, right?
Several years, and I love LA. I think it's I think anyone who doesn't like LA has not experienced the real LA. Like it's such a diverse city with so many different neighborhoods and food options and cultural events, and there's always something happening. And so I think when I first arrived here, it was winter in New York City, and I remember stepping out of the plane and be like, "What? There's mountains and palm trees, like, and it's 72 degrees and sunny. I'm moving here. Like, I clearly need to move here." It actually reminded me a lot of Puerto Rico when I saw the mountains and the palm trees, and I was like, "Okay, this is way more my speed." But yeah, I think one of the hardest things about being so far away is that there aren't a lot of Puerto Ricans, right? There are not a lot of, I mean, now there are more, but when I first moved here, it was just me and my aunt and my cousin. I lived at my aunt's house, and she would make the Puerto Rican food, and that was like such a blessing because there were no restaurants with the exception of Mofongos, which was way too far away.
Yeah, it's in North Hollywood. Is
North
that right?
Hollywood, yeah. And so it was definitely culturally a bit of a shock because also there's an assumption that that Latinidad looks very different than what I present as in the world, and so. When I speak Spanish, they would speak to me in English because it did not compute like for them that I was, someone who looked like this could speak Spanish. And so those were kind of some of the funny things that happened when I got here and still happen today. And honestly, sometimes I'll go to a place and they don't think I speak Spanish, and I'll just speak to them in English. I'll just like, never mind having to, cross over. But yeah, I think it's been a really positive. I've had a very positive experience working and living here, and I love what I've learned about Mexican culture, what I've learned about Salvi culture, because those are the two predominant Latino cultures here in the city, and yeah, it's a cool place, very special place.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for the folks that are the Caribbean folks that are here in Los Angeles. Because, as a Mexican, I know my culture really well, but I love learning about other Latino, Latinx cultures. So I feel like we have something that does feel to sort of bring us together, but the cultures are still so different and so vibrant. And I appreciate Caribbean cultures so much. So I'm always looking to make more Caribbean friends, go to the events.
I know. I feel like all my friends I always find other Mexicans like right away. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, it feels like family. But I grew up in Chicago, so it was a lot of Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, and that was it. And then moving to LA, I was like,
oh wow,
oh my God, pupusas! Like I've never had one of these. They're so good, and like met a lot more like Salvadorians and a lot more people from Central America, which was beautiful. But yeah, how long have you been in LA?
I'm like coming up on 18 years.
Oh shoot! God, okay, so you're more of an LA resident than either of us.
Girly.
I'm going on 12, and I thought that was
at 12.
Yeah,
I'm at 6 this year.
Oh my God.
But I grew up coming here because I had a lot of tias like in Boyle Heights, East LA, like Whittier area. And my dad, like when he immigrated, he was here for a few years. So I always loved coming. I would come in the winters and I'm like, oh, it's 60s? Like, we could be at the beach. And my primos were like, no, it's so cold. I'm like, no, in Chicago, 60s, we're at the lake, like tanning.
That's so crazy. Yeah, it's a whole different
vibe.
That's funny. I grew up. I don't know. I think. Well, that I grew up in Chicago for a few years, and so I also I moved from Mexico to Chicago, so my first experience was also with a lot of Puerto Ricans. My godmother was Puerto Rican, and so now I'm like, oh, I wonder if maybe there's that why I'm drawn to Caribbeans is also Caribbean folks is also that that connection to Puerto Ricans when I first moved here. Also, folks often think that I'm Caribbean. I think because of the curly hair, people will ask me, "Oh, wait, you're Mexican?"
Surprise.
Yeah,
I think the hardest thing about being in LA is just the time zone because it's so like Puerto Rico doesn't change its time zone in the winter. They don't do fall backwards or whatever. So they become 4 hours ahead.
Okay.
Now that we've done spring forward, now they're back to 3 hours. But like, for example, my mom spends a lot of time between Florida and Puerto Rico. And if I want to call her at 7 p.m., it's like, is it 10? Is it 11? I can't call you right now.
Yeah.
So that's just been the biggest challenge about living here. Is just being so far away from my family.
Yeah.
Those flights are long.
Yeah, the flights
to go back to the
quite long.
East Coast. I'm like, which coast? Yeah, the East Coast.
East Coast, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So sticking a little bit with identity, you identify as Afro-Latina. Because I'm curious how your connection to, terms like Afro-Latino, Latinidad, and, versus calling yourself Caribbean, Puerto Rican, or whatever it is. I know folks have a lot of different feelings about that. And those feelings have evolved over the years. And some people feel really strongly about certain terms versus others. Where do you stand on?
I embrace the term Afro-Latina, Afro-Boricua. I think that I didn't have language around my Blackness until that, as an identifier until that came about. And so being able to acknowledge my Blackness within the context of a phrase or a term, to be like, oh, Alexis is Afro-Latina. Like, oh, that I know, I can imagine, what that means. And so yeah, I think that, and this language just came about, and I think 2013 was when they invented the term.
Yeah, so not that long ago, technically.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And so being able to, it actually, there's so much colorism and anti-Blackness within our culture, within Puerto Rican culture, especially, that being able to acknowledge my Blackness in a word like Afro-Boricua, it's very meaningful to me, and I think it creates visibility around the fact that not all Puerto Ricans are, J-Lo and Mark Anthony, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that term, or Afro-Boricua. That's so powerful. That sounds. Yeah, it's interesting how we all, no matter what Latin American country we're from, we've all are subject to this, white supremacy within our own in our own culture. In Mexico, it's erasing our indigenous ancestry, right? By calling ourselves mestizos often, or you're seeing an appreciation of indigenous identities much more so now in the current administration. It's taken a step to really celebrate and bring to the forefront and how they speak about. So I'm really grateful for that. But it's been interesting to also learn about how much colorism and racism is experienced in Caribbean countries, and Caribbean countries that have a lot of Black representation. Yeah. So I wouldn't expect that, but of course, white supremacy is
everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because, like, my dad, he's much more Afro presenting than my mom. She's like more Taína, but my dad's mother, who's a Black woman, and her grandmother was actually an enslaved Black woman in Puerto Rico, and so it's like we have this lineage, right, of Blackness in my family, and yet there is. My own grandmother would be caught saying something that was like anti-Black, or she wore wigs her whole life to cover her Afro hair. And those were just kind of like the violences of colonization manifest in our everyday life and in our families. And so I think this generation, we've all been very deeply in the process of decolonization and decolonizing our worldview and how we use language and how we talk to ourselves, or how we even the beauty standards alone, right? Being able to wear your hair curly and not feel the need to straighten it because that's what's considered beautiful. It's like, I'm so glad that we have an awareness and a consciousness about that, and that we're healing. We're literally healing that in this generation.
Yes,
and correcting family members too, because I feel like some tias and tias, I'm like, you can't. I'm like, but it's like generations of like, yeah.
I mean, coming back to like, we have the opportunity to do that healing, and it's so powerful to hear. I think what you said about how when we heal, we can heal back and forward.
Yeah,
that's
that scientific term. Ooh.
Yeah. No, I know for sure. Like, I've definitely been in the process of decolonizing myself, and even realized that my own internalized racism I had about my own, indigenous ancestry, and how I perceived different things like height, like, oh, why do I like being tall? Oh, because like that reflects more of a connection with this background versus this background. It's been really beautiful to be able to, I guess, confront myself and, have compassion for the ways in which I was being complicit in upholding certain ways of thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, it's like when we think about those family members who still have some problematic things that they say, it's like they also came from a time where that was necessary for their own self-preservation.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm not angry at my grandmother for using saying things that were racist to herself. It's like, it was in order for her to survive the times that she was living in, this is what she had to do. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so grateful that we are no longer living in times like that, although we definitely have to have our guard up about the times that we're living in and be more conscientious. But I think we're also, we've been afforded the opportunity to meditate on what those challenges were, and be able to heal that past anguish and embrace each other and ourselves with love, loving arms.
Yeah, and compassion. And that's something we talk about a lot on the show is not judging folks for where they are in their journey because of what you just shared. And although I feel a little bit afraid of the time that we're living in now, because sometimes, like you just said, we do certain things that are not in alignment with ourselves in order to feel a little bit safer, more protected. And wherever you are and like how you feel oppressed, sometimes that means that you do certain things that are harmful to yourself. So I'm a little bit worried about what might happen in this time and people wanting to be safe and how they might treat different folks. I'm a little bit, but I think it's a commitment from ourselves to each other to keep staying in this.
I think like there's this quote that really resonates with me. It's like, see and appreciate the gold in yourself and in others. And if we could all just see and appreciate the gold in not only within ourselves, but like the world around us, then we would be living in a better, happier, healthier place. And that's what we should be investing in, is each other's gifts and each other's the value that we each bring to the world, as opposed to trying to guard against our differences.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we have our segment Mete o Saca.
Okay.
And so what that means, so Mete is something that you are wanting to invite in, that you want more of. And then Saca is something that you want to, let go of.
Let go. Send it down the river.
Yes. So we'd love to ask you what you would like to, what are you wanting to invite in? ¿Qué quieres meter?
I have been deeply engaged in this concept of meeting my edge and softening. And so that means when I bump up against a challenge, instead of like allowing that challenge to take over my emotions and, make me angry, for example, or make me sad or whatever it is, it's like I allow myself to soften in that moment and be like, why was I going to just flip off that person who cut me off on the freeway? Or, I don't know. So it's a process, but I'm really interested in inviting this meeting my edge and softening point. And I think that those edges are also like breaking points for us all. And so it's like, when you get pushed to a breaking point, how can you meet that edge? And instead of allowing it to break you, how can you soften in that moment and allow yourself to meet the moment in a way that is goes against what you would have just done if you were allowed to be like taken by the river.
I like that. And not letting it like take over you too. Because sometimes I'm like, I'm giving this too much energy or these people too much energy and they don't deserve it. Yeah. So I'm like,
literally that.
Whatever, como quiera.
Exactly. I'm sure.
Como Dios quiera.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I know we have a saying.
We have a saying. There's a few.
My parents have a saying for that.
That resonates with me so much because something that I've noticed is when I've been in situations like that where I'm at that edge, if I would have taken the action that I was thinking about in the moment when I was caught up in the feelings, the outcome is never the outcome I really wanted. It would have been a much more harmful outcome to me and the person that I'm in this situation with. And so oftentimes I'm like, oh, like I want to react in that way. And I just force myself to take a beat. And what's happened a lot of times is that either what I thought, the assumption I made about something wasn't actually that, and it was totally something way, more benign than and it wasn't what I thought it was. And so like, it didn't have to be this whole thing. And if I just take a beat and I take a different action, and I actually am more likely to get what I really wanted and we all wanted. And, so thank you for it. Thank you for sharing that.
I can't see you on edge. I don't know.
I know.
I mean,
I can't see you like yelling at someone or like, I don't know, because you're so calm.
It'll be in my head.
Oh, okay. And it stays there.
I mean, most of the time it stays there because I like take that beat.
Right.
But
she would be a different person.
I feel like I would cry. I'm like,
but there's a few times where I'm
gotten close to that.
I've gotten
edge.
close. I mean, it's happened sometimes where I've taken that action that was not helpful at all. That like something combusted because
Yeah, exactly.
Now I kind of want to see you combust. No, I'm kidding.
Or that's that text
I'm
message
joking.
that you wrote and you like shouldn't send, and you take a beat and you're like, I shouldn't send that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a voice note. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You could hear the tone. And I'm kidding.
All right. And then ¿qué quieres sacar?
Quiero sacar timelines around where I should be in my life and my career, all of that. I'm working very deeply on just like trusting the process, accepting where I am, and accepting that where I am may not always is never going to align with where I thought I'd be in my mind. And sometimes that's for the best, and sometimes it's like, I had certain expectations about owning a house right now, and I'm still working towards that. But yeah.
I'm stealing yours because that's definitely mine. I feel like we put so many expectations and timelines.
Literally.
And I feel like being creatives, I feel like we're all trying to do different things and enjoying the process, growing as we're like meeting those goals. But yeah, I go home and like all my tias, all my primas are like getting married with kids, their house. And I'm like, we have different goals. I don't know. I'm like, I'm rooting for you, but you're putting the pressure on me now, and I don't like this.
Yeah, it's real. So real.
That's so good. Yeah, because otherwise, nomás estás sufriendo, waiting for things to happen when they're
forcing
things that aren't for you.
Yeah,
and not enjoying like what you're actually doing, right?
Cuando Dios quiera.
Exactly.
Cuando Dios quiera. I mean, like
that's the theme of this episode.
Putting in what we can do, right? Y lo demás, como
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, César? Do you have either a mete o saca right now?
I think the saca is the same one. You're letting go of timelines and expectations. Like, when to expect things. Because I feel like living in LA, I feel like we're surrounded by people that, I don't know, we're all just like in our creative journey. Like,
and everyone's at a different point.
Yeah, it's a different point. It's not like corporate. Like, I guess I have like my corporate day job, but it's not like my end all goal.
Yeah.
Whereas like all my friends back home in Chicago, like, they're like, oh, I'm at this title, I'm at this level. And I'm like,
you're like, oh, yeah.
Great, I'm trying to do the short film and act more.
And that's like the thing, you can't compare yourself against that other life experience, because then you'll never be happy.
Yeah. I guess, not comparing myself. I'm letting go of that.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so also resonates with me.
You're like, all of ours, we're all letting it go all at once.
Yeah, no, I think something I've been talking to my therapist about is like, you get to a certain age, and I'm like, getting close to 40, and it's like, oh, that's such a big mile marker. And like, I'm like, oh yeah. And for a long time, I made decisions. I took a pivot. I used to be in tech, and I took a pivot and tried a bunch of things over the last few years. And things that really fulfilled me, that got me closer to community, got me closer to a creative interest that I left so long ago. But then recently, a few things kind of didn't work out the way I wanted them to, or I hoped for them. And then I totally questioned everything myself, like everything. It totally crashed. I felt like I crashed. And, I took some time to reflect, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I should have done all these things that I was like on this track, and talking to my therapist and reflecting with myself, like, oh, wait, but you did the things that really fulfilled you? Why are you judging yourself for having a life that looks like what you actually value? And why are you trying to put yourself into a box that you got out of for a reason?
Yeah.
And that was such a valuable thing to really reflect on. It's like,
hard
wait, why am I
road.
all of a sudden like wishing that I had something that wasn't fulfilling, that wouldn't have brought me everything that I've been able to, the experiences that I've had and the community building that I've been a part of, and meeting people like you and you, César, that have come from me breaking from, this very traditional career trajectory.
Yeah. I think I was going to say that it's a harder road, but you're more fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's like, what would you rather?
Yeah. It's
like this financial stability of the tech job that you're never going to be fulfilled in, or like this robust, vibrant life that you've created, that even though maybe your finances aren't in the same place that you were hoping they would be, it's like you're so much more fulfilled on a personal and spiritual level. It's
I think it comes back to the practice that you really observe about staying really close to yourself. You have to stay so close to yourself so you remember what's actually important to us, what our values are, and so that we continue to live in a way that is aligned with that.
Yeah. And also we need an alternative to capitalism.
Yes, 100%.
The next episode.
100%. I mean, we're all suffering from
just the challenges of existing within the system. It's really
It's crazy. Pero todo pasa su tiempo. I feel like everything happens for a reason too, and you don't want to be stuck in that box again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because my therapist too, I always go back and forth, and he's like, "We already talked about this last week." I'm like, "I know, but sometimes I would have done this.
Sometimes
I would have been here."
Sometimes we need to hear it over and over and over
before we
again.
learn it. Yeah.
And
that's why mantras are important.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite mantra?
Well, I've been saying that meeting my age and softening, and then see and appreciate the gold in yourself and others. And I think the gold in yourself is really important because it's so easy to see it in others and to be mean to yourself or to get yourself down about where you are, any of that stuff. And so I think just being like, you know what, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Same way you talk to your plants is how you should talk to yourself.
I love that.
So yeah.
That's beautiful.
Is there any last message that you want to leave? Anything that you wanted to share that you didn't get to earlier, and also where folks can follow your work?
Yeah. What I have? Well, actually, I've been getting back into hiking lately, and even if it's a short, like 1 hour, 45-minute hike, you don't have to do anything. I think the word hiking sounds strenuous.
Yeah.
But it's actually, there's so many great outdoor connections, especially in LA, but elsewhere. It's like I encourage people to get outside more, because that's really been getting me through these challenging times that we're living. Every time I open my phone, I'm like, oh my God, what else? What did Elon and Trump do now? And that has been really disheartening. But I think just recognizing that we're a part of a planet that's been here for thousands of years and will continue to exist beyond our time, I think that helps to put things in perspective. And so I think my invitation for people is really to touch grass.
Touch some grass. I was going to say, touch some grass.
Touch some grass.
We love touching grass. We need to go on hikes together. There's a trail right behind my house.
Right now and touch this grass?
Touch this grass.
We roll around in the...
Exactly.
No, we need real grass.
Well,
right.
It is real.
Just kidding.
Anyway, where can folks find you? What do you have coming up?
Yes, my Instagram is LexRock, LEXROC, and I'm just shot another film in Puerto Rico last weekend, and I shot a docuseries there too called Forgotten Lands, Indigenous Origins, and I'm excited about these projects and the prospect of them coming out. So follow me and you'll see the trajectory.
I love that. Yay. Well, we appreciate you sharing some space and time with us.
Thank you. It was really lovely. It's a great way to spend my Sunday morning.
Yay!
We added to the Sunday ritual.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much,
Alexis.
Next week. All right, Paletitas, that is the end of our episode. As always, please comment, subscribe, all the things.
Y recuerden, paletitas, la vida es más sabrosa con nosotras porque somos
Las Paleteras.
Hi, Paletitas. This podcast is produced by Joel and Elpidio Perez, along with your hosts. Las Paleteras is edited by Augusto Martinez, with music by Cintia Morado and Ingrid Guijarro. Special thanks to our friends at Mitu and Sonoro for production support.